So Janice, do I just turn all the buttons on up here? Okay. Thank you. I thought so. Nice. All right. You know, we are awaiting our city attorney, Erie Michael Howe, and Michael Brennan. Both the Michaels are here. Come on in, gentlemen. Come on in. Perfect. The Michaels have arrived. Yes. I did. You know what? All right. Sorry. Total transparency. Yes. All right. Thank you all for being here. It looks like 7:01, and we're going to call the meeting to order. Looks like we have a full house. I'd like to ask Mike Howe, will you do the invocation?
Sure.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Lord, let us take a few moments to reflect on the responsibilities that we have. And as I said before, as council members, may we have big ears and small tongues. Amen.
Amen. We all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Let the record note that all council members are here, as well as department heads. And Clarissa, good evening. All right. For presentations, next we have CEC, David Costales. All right. Thank you, David. Is your mic working?
Let's find out. Looks like it.
Perfect.
Mayor Murphy, Council, thank you for having me here this evening to talk about a couple of resurfacing projects within the city limits. To do a quick recap, in the past, CEC has been tasked with looking at specifically at Dinella Drive from Mustang Circle to Meadowbrook and continuing that limits along Meadowbrook up to Voigt Drive. We developed a couple of cost estimates for various configurations of pavement and possible drainage improvements. We presented that to Mayor Fales, and that information is passed on to Mayor Murphy. And in June, I met with Mayor Murphy and Councilman Villarreal, and we decided that we were going to be looking at a mill and overlay, a resurfacing, as opposed to a full-depth rehabilitation of the pavement. Because there were cost savings involved with using a mill and overlay approach as opposed to a pavement rehabilitation approach, CEC was tasked with looking at 4 additional segments, 2 additional segments along Meadowbrook that would take construction from Meadowbrook from Dinella to El Cerrito and from El Cerrito to Sequoia. Then a third additional section on Sequoia from the Meadowbrook intersection back west towards the El Cerrito intersection. Yes, ma'am. We see some problems out there as well. And the final additional segment being on El Cerrito from Sequoia down to Sunway Drive. That's the longest stretch that we have. CEC made the following assumptions, coming up with cost estimates for these mill and overlay projects. Assumptions were every section was a nominal width of 24 feet. We were looking at milling and overlaying 2 inches of asphalt. We are looking at increasing the thickness of asphalt right at the Meadowbrook and Dinella intersection to facilitate drainage off the pavement at that location. It would still be on the right-of-way, but it would not be sitting on the pavement, deteriorating the base in that location. Mm-hmm. And we did not extend the mill and overlay down any side streets. It will end at the limits of each road, not coming around the curb returns at all. And we also assumed a 20% base repair on each segment, with the exception of El Cerrito. We, based on site visits and photography, we're estimating that we wanted to be conservative in that section, and we estimated a 50% base repair for El Cerrito. So the numbers for those 6 projects are roughly as follows. We estimated approximately $100,000 for a mill and overlay of Dinella, $50,000 for Meadowbrook from Voigt Drive to Dinella Drive, approximately $90,000 on Meadowbrook between Dinella Drive and El Cerrito Circle, approximately $75,000 on Meadowbrook from El Cerrito Circle to Sequoia, approximately $46,000 on Sequoia Drive between Meadowbrook and El Cerrito Circle, and the segment on El Cerrito Circle with its 50% base repair assumption was estimated to be approximately $126,000. The total project cost for all 6 segments would be approximately $485,000. And we have a contingency factor of 15%. It's pretty standard to be between 10 or 15% for a roadway project for the contingency. So with the contingency, the total costs plus contingency would be approximately $560,000. The contingency exists to account for potential increases for materials over the next 6 months, and also for any unforeseen conditions that might be encountered. CEC also developed a probable construction timeline and a fee proposal for the engineering services that would include design of the mill and overlay plans, would include advertisement and bidding or production of a request for bid, construction phase services including inspections, materials sampling and material testing, and project closeout, which would be contract administration and production of record drawings. I was unable to prepare the final design fee prior to this. There's a couple of minor items that we're trying to clear up at the very end here, but the ballpark figure is roughly $70,000 for design, construction, production, and advertisement of the request for bid, and project closeout. See, the construction duration is estimated to be between 6 to 8 weeks, approximately 1 week per segment. And presuming we were given notice to proceed, we estimate approximately 3 months for design, 1 month for advertising, approximately 2 months for construction, and then a month or less for project closeout. So, and under these durations, if we were to receive notice to proceed in, say, beginning of August, we would expect construction to occur December, January, and then the project to be complete in February of 2019.
Right. Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. I think we're following that original master street plan and the priority ladder of the street sections needing work, and I think 2 key points you'd made is the cost of materials continue to go up each year, and the cost of transporting the equipment on site to do the work is a significant element when you break it down into smaller sections. Isn't that right?
Yes, sir. Mobilization is usually expected to be about 11% for most standard construction projects, but as you have smaller projects, you have to bring out equipment for maybe a one-time use or haul material for a very small quantity. Those costs are generally slightly higher, maybe a few percentage points.
Shoot. Well, thank you very much for all this. I appreciate it, and I'm excited we will be able to decide to go forward on this. Any questions for Mr. Costales?
The stretch from Meadowbrook, say from Dinella to Voigt, I used to live on that part of the street, and how much does it raise the asphalt level? Because there's a few areas over there that flood pretty dramatically when it rains. And any additional raise in elevation is going to make it that much worse.
Our proposal is to mill off 2 inches of the existing asphalt and then replace it with a light 2 inches back. So we'd have a resurface there and some base repair with that, but we would not be looking at changing elevations on either the roadway or approaching any driveways.
Go ahead.
Does this do El Cerrito from like Sunway, Mecca, Sequoia, Fleetwood to
It goes
Donnell?
down all the way around. It goes from El Cerrito from Sequoia to Sunway.
But the other way, does it go the other way on
It's
El Cerrito?
It's almost, I think it's 0.6 of a mile. I think
Yes,
it's the longest section.
This is 0.6 of a mile. I would say the easiest way to picture it is to say start at the westernmost intersection of El Cerrito and Sequoia. Then you travel south and kind of hook back around towards the northeast.
So it's just the circle part.
Yes, that's
Okay,
correct.
so we're not doing from there up to Donnell.
No,
Okay,
not that part.
okay.
It's 2.3 miles, I think, is the total length when I drove it that we're attempting to try to shore up here.
Yes.
With about $500,000, and I'm encouraged by that after spending, I think, 1.2 on a half mile when we had all the drainage work on Donella. So this seems much more productive. So, well, thank you.
I've got one question. The
Yes, sir.
contingency, the 15%, how is that monitored? How is that?
It's more or less an allowance that would be budgeted if council elects to approach it that route, and if the contractor did not spend, it's less so for the contractor as much as it's to make sure that council appropriates funds that are sufficient to cover any potential cost increases. Generally, when we're developing a cost estimate, the preliminary scoping level document has maybe a 15% contingency, and then we step it down from there as we finalize our way towards a true set of plans, a final bid set. By the time we get to the final bid set, we'll have 0% contingency. So in the event that we've been looking at material prices on a number of projects. We have a number of projects at CEC going out to bid over the past several months, and material prices have been relatively stable over the last 6 months. We don't anticipate a large change, barring probably any geopolitical issues. So right now, the asphalt costs seem to be holding pretty steady, and considering that's the bulk of the cost of the hot mix, we don't foresee really any substantial increase to the unit cost of hot mix. That being said, since we're 6 months out and since we haven't done any detailed work on these plans, the contingency is there just to make sure, like I said, council appropriates enough funds to cover those potential cost increases.
So you're thinking this project would start about when? If it was approved?
If we were to receive approval, let's say notice to proceed was August 1st, we would anticipate that we would be in construction or finish construction maybe end of January 19 and be closing out the project in February.
Okay.
So
I'm
we're
just curious, how does that affect the holiday season, Christmas season, the Voight Center, traffic-wise?
If needed, we could adjust. We could produce the plan sets, and council could choose to hold on to it until, put it out for a request for bid until after the Christmas season. Realistically, that would just be maybe pushing construction to end in March instead of February.
Just a question. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We could stagger some Santa visits as needed. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, David. Yes.
I don't know anything about construction. West of Voight, they had construction. This was quite a few years back, and it was the type of asphalt where the gravel continued to, it was loose. This is not what you're doing. So.
No, ma'am. We are going to put down we're going to mill, just remove the top 2 inches of the existing asphalt, and we'll be placing new mix. That's just a normal standard roadway hot mix. This isn't a chip seal or a one-course surface treatment, anything like that. This is going to be 2 inches of new asphalt.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
questions? All right. Well, thank you, David. Appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to present this info to you.
You bet. All right,
Could you turn up the volume a little bit on this, and also make sure when somebody up there is going to say something, they turn on their mic?
Sorry about that.
Thank you. Announcements, reports from the fire department. Sir.
Good evening. Building over Chief Patrico tonight. For the month of June, the fire department entered 50 calls of service, 12 of those being EMS calls, 37 being activated fire alarms, one brush/grass fire. So that brings us up to 364 runs for the year. Average response time for the month of June was 1 minute and 50 seconds.
Average response time was a minute and 50 seconds. That's
Yes, sir.
impressive. All right. I'd like to mention the fire department. We got a thank you card from looks like Laurel and Carol Ingram. Ingham at 216 Voigt, because they had a fall in the garage, and you guys were out there. 5 of you guys went out there to help them get up and enter the house with minimal amount of pain, and friendly and courteous, and she really appreciated it. So a nice thank you. So thank you.
It's our pleasure.
All right. All right, it's time for the police report then.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. Try to speak loud and clear here. Hope you're having a great week and a great weekend. Going to talk stats real quick. If you get the Sparks, you will see these numbers in your Sparks as well. So we're going to report on those, give you a little more detail today in the council meeting. Our call volume, we had 425 calls this past month. That's about normal for a summer month. We go down to citations, and I'm going to point this out to you. I know we just got done with budget, and we're challenging our municipal court quite a bit these days. So right now, we wrote 295 citations this past month, and we're up to over 1,600 for the year. So if we stay on this pace, which I believe we will, we're going to hit 1,000 more than we did all of last year as well. So that should put us somewhere over 3,000 for the year. And just like I say in every council meeting, if people keep speeding, we'll keep writing. So it's not a problem, not a problem at all. We had some burglaries of a vehicle. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. I'll show you some information of what's being taken and how it's being taken. But we did have 7 of those this past month, so we'll get on to that. I'm not sure if the Sparks has this slide or not, so these are just kind of the miscellaneous stuff, like alarm calls we have to answer and some crime prevention things that we do. But the big number here is this patrol buy. Now, if you've ever gone out of town and used that patrol buy service, and you've got the letter and the email from us saying when the officer came by and checked your house, that's what a patrol buy is. So we did 261 of those this past month, which is a lot of legwork for patrolmen. So total this year so far is 935. So that's 935 times a patrolman got out of a vehicle and checked the windows and doors of a house in Hollywood Park in the past 6 months. So it's a lot of work, but we enjoy doing that service for you guys here in Hollywood Park. So just want to point that out. That is a whole lot of legwork. All right, so here's some of the stats on these vehicle burglars. Now, FBI, we call that a clue, all those unlined words there and unlocked doors. Every single car had an unlocked door, but that's not the anomaly. Here's the anomaly, the things that are in a vehicle, and this is why they keep coming back, quite honestly. This is what they're finding in a vehicle at 2 o'clock in the morning that's unlocked. Your credit cards, your money, your iPad, your iPods, your purses, those kinds of things. So, just do you and us a big favor. And if you don't want to lock your vehicle, by all means, don't lock your vehicle, but let's not leave your credit cards and iPods in your car because they're going to get stolen. We're on the north side. They hit us hard up in this area, so please don't leave your valuables in your car. But that's the kind of stuff that we're getting. This credit card right here, by the way, it was stolen at 2 o'clock in the morning, and by 4 o'clock in the morning, we have video, an ATM video on the south side of an individual using that credit card. So it doesn't take them long. Once they grab it, they go use it. Not long, because they know once you find out, you'll cancel it, so they use it pretty quick. Okay. So here's some detective activity. We do have 2 detectives in Hollywood Park. So this is some of the cases they're working on. Now, I can't go into a lot of detail because most of these are open cases. But I wanted to point out this breach of computer security. So we do have a nonprofit company in Hollywood Park, and their chief financial officer, their email got hacked. So there was over 10,000 emails that were compromised. And why that's important is because a lot of those emails can contain routing numbers and account numbers and very sensitive information. So they had to spend about $150,000 just to evaluate and repair their security system when it comes to the internet security. So if you've ever seen these invoices that you get from people, they'll say, hey, you owe me $1,400, click on this for this invoice, and it looks like it's coming from the city or somebody else. That's how they get that information. They hack these emails, and then they start sending people invoices using the stolen emails. So we've got that tracked down to Nigeria, believe it or not. The FBI came in. Their computer security guys helped us on this case. Not much Hollywood Park officer, Police Chief Pritchard can do in Nigeria, but that's where it's coming from. So food for thought. We're working some family violence cases, some criminal mischief. We do get some drug cases come through here as well, and some assault cases. I did want to point this one out. This one was kind of interesting. So up at Trophy Hunters, if you know where that's at on Sterling Browning, someone actually broke into the back lot, and they had a trailer that had an ATV up on it. And it was a specialized trailer. They had it made special for them. Well, they got stolen. We found pieces of it. They actually chopped it up pretty well. They took the box part, which is on the front of the trailer that they used to kind of store things. They cut it off the trailer, and they used it as a storage shed in this person's backyard. And then the trailer, they rebuilt it and made it a car trailer. So it's been an interesting case. San Antonio's helping us with that, but it's amazing. So if you were around July 4th parade and you've seen these 2 officers here on a bike, that's something new for Hollywood Park. We just started this program. With the help of the EDC, we were able to purchase 2 patrol bikes. That way we can get into the park, the backside of Voigt Park, during events and special occasions and weekends. Our business park in North Park Business Area, you'll see these officers riding around on a bike. So if you see them, say hi. We think it's going to be really, really beneficial to Hollywood Park to have these 2 out there. We'll expand this a little bit as we move along, but I think right now we're going to hold steady with 2. And I don't know if you heard of Rebel Church. Rebel Church, they're starting to really get involved with Hollywood Park. They brought us breakfast the other day, so I thought I'd give them a little shout out. Appreciated that. Free tacos is never a bad deal. Of course, the lemonade stands are popping up all over Hollywood Park. I love that. So appreciate you, Hollywood Park. Pending any question, that's all I have, Mayor.
Do y'all get free lemonade?
This kid was actually pretty tough. He charged 50 cents, but that's okay. It's all right.
Wow. Well, thank you. Any questions for the chief? All right, Kelly, it's your turn. Public Works, please.
All right. Well, this month, pretty busy month. Y'all got your sheets up there. I'm sorry I didn't put them in y'all's packet, but I didn't get them done until this morning, so I figured I'd hand them out. We'll start with the monthly code log. As y'all know, Efren left us. Friday was his last day, so I'm in the process of trying to find us a new code guy. He's going to be working for us part-time until we get someone in and up and trained. So he's going to come in on weekends, and once he gets through with his training over at USAA, he's going to work a morning for about 15 to 20 hours a week. So that's a big help to us.
Can we keep that a part-time position?
We can transition to a part-time
Sure.
position.
If I can find someone that's willing to do it as a part-time.
He don't want to keep doing it?
I don't know. We're
On a
discussing and
part-time basis?
talking about it. I mean, I'd love to.
That'd be good if we didn't have to pay benefits and stuff, right? Yeah.
So as you can see, in June, we had a total of 24 code cases that he did. 8 of them were pending. 8 of them he did second notices. Closed were 16. So the 8 second notices are some from the previous months. They're follow-ups that he goes through. We don't have anything pending for court yet. So he's able to get just about everything closed out. At the Voight Center, the month of June, we had 19 events. 8 were community events, 6 residential paid, and 5 non-residential paid. Some other things we accomplished this month. The irrigation system at Memorial Park, my guys and me were able to get it back up and running at a minimal cost. So we actually have irrigation now at the park. We actually almost lost a couple trees down there because of the extreme heat in May and June. Let's see, the splash pad is down right now. I know y'all probably been getting a lot of noise about that. The splash pad is actually working. The computer that runs the splash pad needs a software update. They sent it to us. We've installed it, and it wiped everything out. So they have to figure out what the bugs are and redo it. So I'm waiting for ZARS to get in on that. Everything at the pool seems to be going really well. Lifeguards are doing good, getting lots of compliments on that. Other than that, everything's pretty smooth here in the town. Anybody got any questions?
Actually, Kelly, I do.
Yes, sir.
On the non-residential rentals of the Voight Center, you have 5 of those. Were those businesses? Were they just people outside of Hollywood?
Non-resident. I need to reword that. It shouldn't be non-residential. It should be non-resident.
Right, but were there any businesses that
No, sir.
rented it?
No, sir.
Okay.
They're all
Okay.
Just people from outside
Okay.
who want to use the venue.
Thank you.
All right.
Kelly, what's the biggest violation so far in codes? I mean,
Brush and trees.
Just not doing it?
The trees is the 14-foot clearance, and usually whenever people are notified of it, they immediately take care of it. Brush is people putting brush out too early for their pickup time. And it's just trying to get people trained to understand you just can't put it out whenever you want. You have a 10-day window before your pickup day. That's as early as you can get it put out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yes, sir.
One more thing. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Is there any way we can put on this Voight rental log commercial and non-residential?
Yeah.
So that we know how much commercial business we can actually draw from the Voight Center.
I think that's a good
Thanks,
idea.
Janice.
Be glad to.
All right. Thank you, Kelly. All right, Clarissa Corbel, would you like to share your financial wisdom?
If I can
Yes.
Before you.
Yes, Janice.
In case people don't know, Clarissa Corbell comes to us from Robert Half Agency Accountants, and she was here a week when Anita was still here, so she's been able to just pick up and go famously since Anita left, and so this is her report for finance.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. We all have here the financial reports presenting the month end June 30th, 2018. And it's showing that we have completed 75% of the budget for fiscal year 2017 and 2018. Revenues are listed at 90.61% of the budgeted amount, and total expenditures are at 65.78% of the budget.
You have any questions?
Questions, anyone for Clarissa? Let's throw some tough ones in.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Clarissa. Appreciate you stepping in on that. Janice, it's your turn.
Yes, sir. For the month of June for court, they had 195 new cases filed. There was 185 defendants on the docket for a total of cases for 285. We had 77 people that appeared in court, but it was standing room only. We got through it pretty well, so that was good. We had 2 people that are now capable of doing both windows at the same time. So we should be able to get through these pretty quickly in the future. Also, our prosecutor, Ryan Henry, has been bringing an additional clerk with him, so we have an additional prosecutor that sits here while he's sitting there, and we're getting them out as quickly as possible. So that's a definite plus for us, which is a very good thing. Upcoming events, we will be having our budget workshop tomorrow for all residents that would like to attend. And that's all I have.
Did you think that the court processes went considerably faster in this past month than the month prior? It seemed like it was an hour or two quicker, but when it was all said and done.
Yes, sir, I think it did. I think we're finally getting into our zone. I think with the help of the additional personnel that we have, it's coming along much faster than usual. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Attorney. Yes, sir.
I don't have anything that's not on the agenda, and I'm coming down in a few minutes.
All right. All right. Well, I just would like to give a shout out to Don Trillian and Trillian Masonry, a longtime Hollywood Park resident who his company erected the original monument signs at the entrances to Hollywood Park, and one of them was knocked down and damaged there at Voight in 1604, and he went out this past week and they rebuilt it and fixed it at no charge for the residents of Hollywood Park. So I wanted to thank him for his time and effort. And yeah. Now, if we go on to approve the minutes of the regular council meeting on June 19th. Are there any changes? Anybody?
I'd just like to notate, Mayor, that Councilwoman Truman contacted me today. So on page 12 of the minutes, on item number 7 under announcements, I in error put Mayor Fails stated, and it should have been Mayor Murphy, so that has been corrected.
Oh, thank you. That's right, first name. All right, and then the council budget workshop on July 2nd. I think those minutes are in. Any comments or questions about them or about the budget meeting that took place on the 9th of July? If there are no questions or comments about them, would anyone like to approve those minutes and accept the financial statements as of June 30th, 2018?
I do have a question. It's actually regarding one of the executive sessions that we had. It was, and I thought we never actually got to the point when we had the executive session to discuss some of the things with Janice, which was the communication between administration department and the mayor and council. I didn't think we actually got to that point during the executive session in the last meeting.
That's why I put on number 6, Councilman. This item was not discussed.
Right, and so
okay,
I didn't know if we were to continue that conversation or how do you want to take that? Because
would you like to?
Actually, Janice and I talked, and I've pretty much, but I just didn't think that we discussed that topic. So,
okay.
No, but it does say that we didn't discuss it, right? Yeah. So are you good with it?
I'm good with it.
All right. All right. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, shall I make a motion? I make a motion that we approve and accept the consent agenda as written.
And the financial statements?
Everything.
Okay.
Accept and approve.
All right.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay. Motion passes. Now it's time for citizen participation. And we've got Tim Rainey. If you'd like to come up, please. Thank you. Just state your name and your address, please, and then share your reasons for visiting us.
Hi, thanks for allowing me to speak here. I'm Tim Rainey. My address is 127 Antler Circle, which is in the Enclave. the gated part, I guess. Anyway, I'm here to talk about the construction that's going on. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's in front of the, or next to the Holiday Inn and behind the trophy shop over there. And just a couple of things that happened. One, I guess I feel a little bit, displaced. I didn't know anything about that until they actually came over and started working. And the biggest problems I have with that over there, and it's caused me problems, when they started, there was dust storms every day, and I couldn't, my backyard is still covered with dust, actually. The other thing is that they built up the ground there about 4 feet, 4.5 feet, right next to my fence, so that when somebody's standing in their parking lot about 4 feet away from my backyard, I'm looking at their shoes, basically, and they built some parking structures over there, and those cars, when they park there, you can see underneath the cars all the way through to the street, basically. My privacy, I have a privacy fence that is negated. Right now, they are trying to mitigate that somewhat, but if you still stand in their parking lot, and they've built about an 8-foot concrete block fence out there, I'm still looking at their knees from their side. I don't know what. I think the block actually comes about their waist level, maybe, when they're standing in their far end of their parking lot, right next to my backyard, which is only about 3 yards from where that parking structure is to inside my backyard would be about 3 yards. So it's really pretty close. I did send out an email. I think everybody got it, and I appreciate the response I got. I got a real quick response, actually. Oh, yeah, when the parking structure's up there, they have some lights that they put underneath there. Supposedly they're security lights, but they light up my backyard like nobody's business. It's so bright over there at night. I've got some good blackout shades, but that's right next to my bedroom and in my living room. And there's, when I watch TV at night, even though there's that much light coming into my house, that it kind of makes it uncomfortable to watch TV. And of course, when I go to bed, those lights are on all night, so that's not a good thing. My secretary, what? But anyway, so I was kind of looking for some remedies from those people. I've had a couple of times when they started work at 6 o'clock in the morning or earlier, and I do have Mr. Dresch's phone number. I call him, and he always takes care of that right away. So that's real good. Great response from him. But I'm now worried about, what the value of my property is. There's a business that is above my fence, really, and they're right there. And when I first moved in there, I was under the impression that area was never going to be built on because there's that big drainage ditch that goes underneath it. There's a huge one. So I thought that was kind of a protected area. Obviously, it wasn't. When they started building back there, I think they avoided that big drainage ditch back there to start with. So I don't think there's anything built on it right now other than whatever asphalt or, whatever they put in for their parking lot. So I'm not sure, what I really could expect from them other than not to, or to do something to mitigate my, invasion of my privacy. Not that they did it on purpose, but I'm sure that I would have liked to have known ahead of time that they were going to build that up to 4 feet. So those are the issues that I have with that over there. I don't know if there's a remedy for it or not. I think in my email I put in, the section, they have a wall being built between the wall and where their parking lot is. I think there's about, like I said, 3 feet. I think they can put some vegetation, some like red tip, Potentia or whatever they're called, that grows pretty fast. They could probably take care of the problem, but I don't know. I don't want it to be at my expense for them to do it. I really appreciate the business in Hollywood Park. I think it makes this place a great city to live in, but I don't want it to be at my expense, really. Yeah. That's all I have.
Hey, I appreciate you coming and telling us your concerns and putting it on the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess we can forward these comments to Bruce and to other folks and talk to the developer.
I mean, there's got to be a good neighbor policy here that we can work something out.
Like with the
And
lights.
shielding
With
the
the
lights.
lighting and maybe building up the
Directing them
fence a
away.
little higher. That
This home, this is the one home. It looks like you guys are right there,
We
the
can't-
closest
we
one.
can't talk about this. The attorney's over there
He's
and
telling
having
me-
a conniption.
Okay. Thank you. All right, I've lost my voice. Thank you very much. All right. So now we'll go on.
Because it's not on the agenda, not because we don't want to.
Yes.
I just wanted to add, Ms. Powell, we didn't send one to you, and the reason we didn't is we didn't have an email address. Under your name, they had the mayor's address. So that's the only reason why you did not get one.
Oh. Doug Price.
Name, but the wrong email. Okay.
Doug Price, are you here? Would you like to speak? Please come up. State your name and your address, please, Doug. I won't make any comments.
Hi, I'm Doug Price. My address is 23 Greatwood. I'm over in the gardens of Hollywood Park. And I may need to speak actually under citizen comments for old business because I basically just have some questions about the no solicitation ordinance and what the individual citizens may be able to do in terms of either posting a no solicitation sign at our property or no trespassing signs. As I understand, the prohibition against solicitors has been changed. So that's my comment. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. And Chris Thompson. Please state your name and your address, please.
Hi, my name's Chris Thompson. I live at 216 Robledo Verde. And I'd like to thank you for your time. As all of you are probably aware, public transportation through the San Antonio bus system VIA was ended here in Hollywood Park back in 2002, I understand. And it may have been ended due to street damage that went on here. I'm not sure of all the facts, but that and perhaps low ridership caused the demise of that. But I didn't live here then, so I can't really say for sure what all the reasons were. But I'm here tonight to ask for a reconsideration of opening via bus service back in Hollywood Park again, at least on a partial basis, but maybe an overall bus service. Things have changed a lot since 2002. There are some new bus routes now that run north of 1604 from 1604 up through Stone Oak over to all the way over to 281, and there's a new transportation hub that's been built over there. And it allows for commuting downtown now, directly down 281. And there's also an outlet that travels south on Blanco, so it circles right around Hollywood Park on both sides. So for people that might want to commute using the bus lines, there's no way to get to that hub other than driving themselves or through other expensive options like, Uber and taxi cabs and things like that. So it would give good access to the medical facilities that have recently opened in Stone Oak. There's a new hospital there, and a lot of doctors' offices have opened since 2002. And there's retail outlets and employment opportunities over there that people don't have any public transportation to. So for that, it would be a good idea to have some kind of bus service here. Right now, our residents have no public transportation access to these new routes and services. As part of that transportation hub, I wanted to share a mailer I received at my house about Park and Ride, and some of you may have received this, and I'll leave this with the council as well. But the maps are in here indicating the routes around and leaving Hollywood Park out here in the middle. And again, if we had some kind of a branch through Hollywood Park, people could take advantage of this commuting service and this new hub that's very close to our neighborhoods. So for your consideration, and I'll leave that a little bit later. And I realize that full bus service is a lot to consider, given that it may damage roads and might call for some construction. But at the very least, as a second consideration, I'd like the council to consider some limited use of public transportation through Via Trans, which is
Via Trans is an ancillary service provided by Via that provides door-to-door service for handicapped or disabled riders. That does not require, and these are the good points about it, it does not require a full-size bus to operate, and it does not have to run regular routes that just run empty if nobody is asking to use them. And it does not require bus stops of any kind because it's a door-to-door service. So I think it would be a real good option. It's purely on demand. Users request it through a phone call to the Via offices. And it's accomplished primarily with minivans and occasionally with shuttle-type vans, so there's no large bus traffic through the city. I have some pictures of those as well, because people can interpret the word minivan, but I took some photographs, and I'll leave these here, but it's just the small 7-passenger type minivans that a lot of residents drive. And usually they're not even carrying 7 people in there. There's usually 1 or 2 people. And occasionally when wheelchairs are required, they'll use the larger shuttle-type van, which, again, I don't think would create a lot of trouble with the streets, and bus stops are not required. So at the very least, this would allow disabled and handicapped non-drivers in our community some very affordable access to public transportation in San Antonio. And I know with my family, it would be important. I have an adult son with autism, and he works occasionally, and this would give him better access to his jobs when he works and to his day rehabilitation center that he uses 3 times a week. And again, we do use Via Trans now, but if he's going to catch it, he has to catch it at the corner of Voight and 1604, which is a real busy intersection. And it's a big concern to us when he's dropped there and then has to walk the rest of the way into Hollywood Park. Again, there's no sidewalks, but thankfully there are curbs in that area. And he's just an example of the kind of people that could use this. He's also recovering from heart surgery, so again, a door-to-door type delivery would really be a nice touch. So that is about it. If any additional work is required on this, such as some meetings with Via, letter writing, phone calls, other presentations, I'd be happy to volunteer my time to assist the council as we try to get something like this done. So keep that in mind. And other than that, thanks for considering it, and something that would be of service to the handicapped here in Hollywood Park.
And thank you for sharing that and offering to volunteer. Appreciate that.
Surely. I'll leave the material with you.
Nice. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Yes. All right. We're going to go now to old business. Yes, you may. Oh, well. All right, Mr. Phillips. Councilman Emeritus.
Thank you. I left the paid position for this, so I'm really very happy. Just one comment on the last presentation to you. Via wanted something like $600,000 for us to pay them so they could come in here. Do you remember that?
No, I wasn't involved.
That was a number of years ago. Maybe we can just allow
us to pay them.
Right. Wow. Right. Do you remember that?
I think it was 100,000.
Yeah, it wasn't 600,000.
It was a lot.
I mean, they were here before, but again, we can't talk about.
Oh, that's right. Don't talk to me.
We're sworn to silence. But.
Please, I want to urge council to expedite CEC to expedite their procurement of all their numbers so we can get something to you guys so you guys can vote yes on it. But I have a question for CEC. Does the remaining part of the NELA include the concrete ribbon? It doesn't.
No. It's just a 2-inch mill overlay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's good that we're doing what we're doing.
Oh, good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please expedite that. Thank you.
All right. Now for old business number 1. I hear a minstrel. What? With old business number 1. And the minstrel's telling us we're going to discuss the amended ordinance. Is that how you would describe that, Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
That finalizes the changes made to accommodate the folks that were anxious for us to repeal our solicitor ban. And any citizen comments about that? We heard from you, and then any discussion? Would you like to share the details of that change, or?
Just that I'd like to hear the change.
Yes.
Okay. There were 3 proposed changes in this ordinance. First, in one of the cities, the police chief that is the administrator of the no-visit list and so forth felt like the fee paragraph in here was insufficient. He interpreted it to read that if a merchant that had multiple solicitors showed up in town, that the merchant with multiple solicitors only had to pay $300 per year for all of those solicitors, plus the background check on an individual basis. And the way the ordinance was intended, and I thought the way it's written, and the way I've now clarified it with Section A in this amendment ordinance, is that each solicitor or peddler has a $300 fee per year, so that if there are 5 peddlers for one merchant, then the annual fee is $1,500 per year for that merchant, plus $25 as a background check fee for each one of the individual peddlers or solicitors. And frankly, those fees are going to serve as a significant detriment to merchants that want to send an army of solicitors or peddlers out to the city, because the fees are not a one-night fee or one-week fee. They're an annual fee, which enables us to set the fees fairly high and significantly more costly for a merchant that has multiple peddlers. So that was the first change. I just wanted to clarify that. Secondly, there was an appellate provision in here that said that appeals for denials would be handled by the city manager, and y'all don't have a city manager, so I just changed that to the mayor. The mayor's going to handle the appeals for denials. And the last change was mainly at the suggestion of the mayor. He felt strongly that we ought to put something in the ordinance that would mandate that a peddler who comes to your house and is successful in getting you to sign a contract, that the contract be in writing, not just oral or just on a tablet that they walk away with. And secondly, that the total price that is being sold is clearly stated in the writing, and that there's a clearly stated cancellation privilege on the engagement or the contract that you might sign. The mayor was concerned about the business practices of some of the peddlers, which is certainly a valid concern. So I added that into the ordinance too.
I appreciate that.
So now the defenses are, number one, it's costly for a merchant or a peddler to get a permit or a license. Secondly, a person that is approached at their front door never has to open the front door to an unknown person, and I think should never do that. Third, if you want to have a no trespass or no solicitor sign near the front door, that's binding and valid. And fourth, I think it's the easiest for anybody is to get on the no visit list. And there needs to be the city will need to have a mechanism for notifying the citizens that all they have to do to get on the no visitor list is give them their name and address and the date that it starts. And that no visitor list is then passed out or given to any peddler that seeks a permit or a badge and is binding on those folks, and they can be arrested if they are seen going where they're not supposed to go.
Okay. I appreciate your help. We got the example from Windcrest of the no no-call list.
Yeah,
The
I think that
form.
was from Alamo Heights. They did.
Okay.
They started this last year, and they've developed a no-visit list, and that sample form that I sent you was from there.
Okay. And the permits for the solicitors, it looks like for some of the ones in San Antonio, they'll go and they'll laminate them themselves, so they'll last for the whole year, but it doesn't look like it's our responsibility to do that for them.
No.
We can produce the permit, and it'll have an expiration date on it and all that.
Yes,
That's
sir.
good. Well, thank you. This is a big help.
Mayor, I have a question, if I may.
Yes.
And maybe for the city attorney or for the police chief. Yeah, and I'm not sure if I'm correct in this, but I was doing some research, and I came upon that the police department can't do the background check.
Yes.
Through the CGIS system, it's illegal, and so that we must hire an outside agency to do the background check for us. But if we're going to do that, we're having to hire an outside agency. I think we could pass the fee on to the permit requester. Is that correct?
I agree. Right now, I just put in that sample of $25 or whatever it is, the pass-through charge, and I don't know what I understand what you're saying. You're exactly right. And I assume that you'd have to obtain those background checks from some other source than that one.
Looks like a pretty good value for $25.
Yeah, there's a lot of paid access sites that you can get access to here for the city if you want to do it in-house, but we cannot run it through the criminal justice system without a valid offense or a valid reason. So that you're absolutely right. I'm glad you brought that up.
So do we leave it at $25, or do we say the whatever cost?
Yeah, that was a sample fee, and it may be different everywhere you go, but whatever it is, y'all can pass it through.
If we pick someone that charges another $300, then that'll really discourage people from.
That's clever, but you have to be reasonable in whatever you do. Right.
Sorry, thank you for pointing that out.
I have some questions based on some questions that residents have asked me. If a solicitor comes and knocks on someone's door, can they ask to see their permit?
They're supposed to wear the badge.
They wear the badge?
Yes.
Okay, that's what the permit looks like, is a badge. Okay, and how big do no solicitor signs have to be, and can it just simply say no solicitors, or does it have to say no solicitors, no peddlers?
It can be a no trespass sign, a no peddler sign, a no solicitor sign. You see those around I know our office building where I am has no solicitor signs at all of the entrances. As far as I know, there's no specific size that they have to be. I think it just have to be readable.
Okay, and like the one that you post by your doorbell?
Yes.
Put it on there?
Yes.
Okay. And then what's the status of the list? Can we start it?
I hope you're starting it right now. We passed the ordinance last time, so I don't know exactly what the status is, but I hope we start as quickly as possible because these people they're in town,
That's what I'm hearing, yeah.
I think the correct term is not solicitors, but carpetbaggers, okay?
Well,
because these people are vicious.
They're aggressive,
yes,
and they're
very,
trained.
Very aggressive. But I like the fact that we are we're trying to definitely make it very hard for them to come into Hollywood Park.
Yes,
it's going to be very costly if they want to knock on doors.
Yes, sir.
And I think that the town of Hollywood Park needs to realize we're not just throwing our hands up and saying, sorry guys, we have to do this, okay? We are making steps in place to say, hey, they're going to have to follow these rules to come and knock on a door. And if you put that sign out there, okay, we are saying you cannot come knock on that door, no call list. So, I mean, there are steps that we are taking, okay?
I think the biggest, in the long run, I think that no-visit list is going to be the most functional way of addressing the problem. You just have to get the information out to the public that it's available and they can sign up.
But, Michael, when they register, okay, and they fill out all the forms, do they get that no-call list?
That's a requirement that they receive that list at the same time.
Okay.
The police chief last night at Windcrest at their meeting had developed a sign. It had that they pass out or give to citizens if they ask for them. Mm-hmm. I think signs are a little cumbersome and difficult. People have a little problem with actually sticking a sign out there. But anyway, they developed a real nice sign and had the seal of the police department at the bottom and, don't you dare, and that kind of stuff.
Can we send a notice to all the residents asking them to?
Yes, if they want. I don't think you can say you must sign up or anything, but just invite them if they want to be on the no-visit list to send them.
A way that we can get the word out better
And I think that should be a mailer. It shouldn't be Connect with Hollywood Park. It shouldn't be on Nextdoor.
Oh, I agree.
It should be in everybody's mailbox.
But every way. I mean, I think
Right.
it should be mail, but I think we should do email lists and Nextdoor. Are you ready for that, Janice? I mean, can we start telling people, send? Because you need one more thing to do.
I'm going to tell you. Yeah, we are getting prepared for this. We're trying to do an online system so that way, separate from everything else, so people can just go online. And as to your question, Ms. Truman, I mean, I think if even you don't know who's going to be forging nameplates or that I'm a permit that I've been approved by, I encourage residents to call us and say, I have somebody at my door, and this is the number that, and we can look it up and say, oh, no, ma'am, he's not registered to go to your house, and we'll send the police out there. So I think residents should be able to call at any time and check. That's what we're here for. But yes, since this has happened upon us, and like I said, we're doing some research, and that's how I found out about the CJIS issue. But yeah, we're taking steps. Alamo Heights is already doing it, and so is Sherps. So we're trying to model a template after them.
Maybe we could print out flyers and hand them out at all the community events, every time somebody's out.
That'd be a good idea.
Or the pool or somewhere,
But I don't want to send something out if y'all aren't ready to, start taking names.
It'll take time, I guess.
We're deferring to the mayor to let us know what he wants us to do with plan and stuff.
Murph,
The deadline is up this Friday for the Sparks, for the upcoming Sparks. And if we're prepared with the background check vendor and we've got the permit form in place, the template for that, I think we could have it up and running by the end of the month or the last week of the month, and go with it.
It'd be good to have everybody signed up before we even issue permits.
Absolutely.
Say, well, here's the 3 people you can visit.
Yes.
Are you allowed to take additional citizens' comment during your discussion?
I would think
Are we? I
It's
think
on
we
the
are.
agenda, yeah.
Are you a solicitor?
You step up to the microphone, please. Sure.
So again, I'm Doug Price over at 23 Greatwood. I appreciate the clarifications. That's very helpful. A couple of quick questions. Can the permits or that they're given to the solicitors have a photo ID so that they're not able to just pass them around and switch? Because it's one thing to have a number that we have to call the city and get them to check. It's another if it's a photo ID that says this is their solicitor, here's their number. So that might be something to consider. Second, is there an upper limit on the fee that we can charge? $300 may be a drop in the bucket to some of these people. So I know it probably has to be reasonable, but is there an upper bound of what we know to be reasonable for?
Any fee that a city or a government charges is supposed to be based on a reasonable estimate of the cost of administering the program. You can't set a fee that's big or huge in order to stop the activity or the event. So whether it's a building permit fee or any other kind of fee the city charges, is supposed to be related to the amount of time and effort that the city expends to do whatever the work is to get the fee.
Okay. And so do we have a basis for the $300 being reasonable? Or?
Well, I think $300 is okay. We have not had a kickback on that from an official type kickback. I don't know. I mean, it could be bigger if it turns out that it's taking more staff time and paperwork time and so forth. So that's something we look at.
And now that we're putting a glamour shot in there, could we charge a little bit more money?
Yeah.
Do we have the capacity to do that, to do a photo one?
No, we currently don't.
I think that would be a challenge.
Well,
isn't it going to be the responsibility of the peddler to provide that, right? Or do we have to provide that at a cost to them?
The
proof.
The proof, like the ID card or photo ID or whatever.
I think we issue the permit. I know that when they apply, they're supposed to furnish, or one of the requirements is that they furnish the name, physical description, photograph of each person for which a card is requested, and in lieu of that, they can furnish a driver's license, state ID card, passport, or other government-issued identification card, and we can photograph that or take a copy of it and use it, as I understand it.
Mr. Brennan, can you have them require them to bring a passport photo as part of that application? You know, make it standard like you would have to other, like say, hey, you got to go to Walgreens, get a passport photo and bring it in. And that way it's standardized and it's good quality.
Thank you, Mr. Price.
And you could use that for the permit.
We possibly could do that.
Just an idea, just
Yeah.
because if you say bring a photo, you might get an 8x10, you might get a 3x5. You know what I mean? They're going to play all kinds of tricks. So you have to standardize.
That's a good. Let's look at that.
It's
a good
interesting
idea.
how many nuances of distinction this ordinance can spawn.
To be honest with you, I actually thought when we were talking about this in the last executive session about this, I actually thought a photo ID was already included. And I'm glad Doug brought this up about a photo.
Thank you, Doug. Well, having said all of this, would anyone like to move that we pass this ordinance change to move forward on this?
I move that we amend the recently adopted peddlers ordinance to clarify fee and to add contract disclosures.
Anyone second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. Now we're going to new business topic number 1, just discussing the Danella Street project. And having heard from Mr. Costales talk about the cost estimates and the opportunity to get over 2 miles of streets needing improvement in our town, I would like to move us to the next step and have the fee bid, is that what it's called? Is the correct description for the next step to generate the RFPs?
The next step would be for CEC to present y'all with a design fee proposal for the engineering. Yes,
Thank you.
For the engineering services. While I'm up here, there's one item I would like to touch on that I neglected to earlier. We did contact multiple utilities as part of our effort, overhead and underground utilities. SAWS and CPS are hesitant to commit to anything until some level of plan development has been done. For the Danella project, a substantial part of that was the relocation of the water main or not really relocation, I apologize, the upgrading of water mains and gas mains, in addition to laying out gas services from the main and dead-ended at each property. That way, in the event that anybody in the future wanted to tie into the gas main, they didn't have to recut the road. So we've made overtures and we've reached out to SAWS and CPS to gauge their interest, but as stated, they're hesitant to commit to anything until some plans have been developed.
Okay.
If there is an interest from SAWS or CPS to joint bid or even reconstruct facilities ahead of time before we get there, that would have an effect on the schedule. It would not have an effect on and the coordination and inclusion of any joint bid plans are not a part of the fee that we have developed at this time.
Okay.
So we'd have to look at that following probably our preliminary submittal.
How does joint bid plans affect the city?
Well,
as far as the estimate you're coming up with,
it wouldn't have a serious effect on the roadway items, but part of the work that the city's contractor would be doing would be to install gas mains and water mains. What that really means is, especially with regards to CPS, they have specific contractors that are on their list of approved contractors, and in our experience, it's the biggest challenge you have is making sure that your contractors teamed with a good pre-approved gas contractor so that they can get that work done.
So we wouldn't incur any other expenses to having them in here, would we?
If you did a joint bid, there would be funding agreements. For example, in the Danella 1 project, we had interlocal agreements with both SAWS and CPS, and those interlocal agreements were the mechanisms that SAWS and CPS paid Hollywood Park back for the construction of those facilities. So CPS, if I recall correctly, and I may be flip-flopping them, and I can clarify that in a specific email to council, tomorrow or later this week. I believe it was CPS was paying directly to the contractor, whereas SAWS was paying the city back after the city had paid the contractor for both roadway and SAWS construction. So that would be the biggest difference in the event that joint bid utilities were part of construction.
Thank you.
In your experience dealing with Danella 1 and the current project that we're talking about, how far down did you guys dig or remove the surface on Danella 1 versus this new project where you're only going down 2 inches? Correct.
Yes, the first project was several inches of base reclamation, and we got down there and mixed that stuff up with some cement to repair that base and rehabilitate the pavement. Here, for the purposes of the roadway construction, it's a milling machine that comes through and just grinds off the top 2 inches of the asphalt. However, for the utilities, they had to get in there and they had to trench to a depth of anywhere between 3 and 5 feet. Of course, the problem on Danella, not problem, that's the wrong word. The challenge in Danella was the shallow limestone, and that required the use of a rock saw. Without seeing geotechnical reports for the other areas, I can't speak for how much rock saw work any contractor would have to do. That would be part of our design fee to get bores for the remaining sections. But I would anticipate if joint bid utilities are a part of the project, that's going to be really the driver of any construction schedule. The mill and overlay, like I said, we're talking probably about a week, conservatively a week per segment. If SAWS and CPS facilities are being installed, well, then they're going to be the drivers of the schedule.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions?
So our next step would be to do what?
To move forward with the intention of getting the plan work done so the RFPs can be offered out to get bids to get this to the next level. You come back with a fee.
So we won't know from the utilities until we have that,
right?
Until we've moved down the road a bit further with the engineering aspect of it, till they decide what they want to do.
That's correct. I would assume that within the next month, after NTP, within a month or month and a half, we could be able to have a real conversation with SAWS and CPS to discuss
whether they're going to. Gotcha.
I think the only one possible impact could be if, say, come January or December, if we're waiting for them to do something and we're holding equipment, then that could cause a cost increase, but it would be relatively minor, wouldn't that?
Well, hopefully we wouldn't have to wait. I mean,
not long.
Well, if the utilities were part of the joint bid construction, then the contractor's own equipment, so to speak, for the milling and overlaying would be.
It would be part of that?
It would be part of that. So,
good.
So one contractor or one contractor and their subcontractors would be handling any utility construction and the repaving effort. So it shouldn't have an impact on the bottom line there. It's not like somebody would be waiting idle if there were joint bid utilities. It would be one entity.
Is there a possibility at some point down the road, let's say utilities decide that they're not going to do anything at this point, and we move forward with the paving project, and then a year from now, SAWS or CPS comes and says, we're going to do this now, and then they destroy our new roads, basically.
All of them, yeah.
Yeah, that's the reason why we're reaching out to them right now, and they're very aware of that. They don't want to bear the costs themselves of having to mill and overlay an entire road. We do have requirements in our codes and the general notes that we send contractors when they do work for trenches. That includes limited resurfacing above their trench and any excavation pits that they have to dig for their work. But that's the biggest reason why we reach out to SAWS and CPS at this stage is to, we don't want to go out there and have somebody cut that road in a year just to add in a gas service or even lay a whole new line. So we're trying to head that off by opening communication.
Would you say that this step, then we are just agreeing to invest up to $70,000 for your work to take this project to the next step? for the RFPs and reach out to SAWS? Would that be a safe assessment? Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any comments or discussion among the council?
Well, I'm in favor of doing it.
All right. Would like to move to make a motion?
Make a motion, move forward to get the Dunellis Street project as stated by CEC.
Any second?
I second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Going to new business number 2. All right. There's Tom from Clear Channel Outdoor. Hello, Tom. And what we're going to do in business number 2 is we are going to discuss taking action to an agreement with Clear Channel Outdoor to convert a static bulletin that we currently have on 281 at Mecca into a digital bulletin, and using the same paperwork as our existing agreement with Clear Channel, and allows us to reap the benefits of both parties of revenue this year. And let me see, it would be to the tune of about $50,000 plus an additional $50,000 for a signing bonus, or $100,000 within our next budget year to accommodate this change. And the ordinance is embracing changes made by the state that take away the distance minimums between electronic signs. And is that a fair description?
That's pretty much it, Mayor. And it also, the concept that we have operated under on cities doing these digital signs is a code provision that says that digital signs have to be on public property, public right-of-way, or property controlled by the city. So that's the rule in Hollywood Park. Initially, there was one sign. The city made a contract after RFPs and all that stuff with Clear Channel to do one sign on 1604 and 2 signs on 281. And I don't know who came up with the idea of converting this sign over here, but it's a brilliant idea because the state has reduced the minimum distance between digital signs. Now, I think it used to be 1,500. Now it's 500 or whatever, just a regular sign distance is. And that opens up this opportunity for the city. And as long as nobody's unhappy with that location for a sign, it's a great revenue source for the city. We needed to change the code to up the number of signs that can be along 281 from 2 to 3. And we cleaned up 1 or 2 other little things that would make our code consistent with what is being proposed by Clear Channel. I think the action that y'all could take would be to approve this ordinance, which kind of is a basis for enlarging the opportunities for signs. And secondly, authorize the mayor and the city staff to work out a contract with Clear Channel to develop this sign right here.
Okay. And it's a conversion of an existing sign, so it's not an issue that would require bids or competitive issues.
Can I have a question?
Sure.
Okay. There was another sentence in 511B, a final sentence that talked about being 150 feet from residential. Can we leave that in?
I don't want to say we can't leave that in. It's my understanding that that all of the ones that we have in Hollywood Park are pretty much further than that. Uh-huh. And you all have control over the location of any new sign that comes, and so you can control that question without having to have a stated distance that may be difficult to achieve. You can do it. I would suggest that you get rid of that sentence. because of the fact that you all have control over the location of those signs. And if somebody came to you and said, we want to put 175 feet from that house over there, I think you'd turn it down. But I think it may be better from a negotiating position for the city to have the flexibility for y'all to decide on a case-by-case basis where these signs are going to be instead of having a fixed rule like that.
Okay.
And Tom might have some comment on that. I don't know, because he does this every day.
And when we do these, I've asked this before, when we do these revised ordinances, I want to see a red line version so I don't have to go online and see, okay, what are we taking out? Yeah.
Okay, that's great. A good idea.
Any other comments or questions from the council?
I want to make sure that there's been no discussion yet with the potential sign already with rates or anything. It's just we're changing the ordinance here. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Would someone like to move that we move forward with the ordinance change to allow the transformation of the sign?
I move that we revise the ordinance as stated.
All right. Do I have a second?
I second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. All right.
Mayor, are you going to be authorized, or somebody on behalf of the city going to be authorized to negotiate with the sign owner to develop this project?
I was expecting to be. Is that
okay? It wasn't in that motion, so I was just, before you move on to the next topic, that would be a good idea.
So do we have to make a motion to do that?
I would.
Okay. I would like to add something to that motion.
Surely.
For transparency, that we have another person in that meeting when we're negotiating the signs, the fees and everything. Just for,
Okay. A representative from,
yes.
Another representative from the council?
That is correct.
Sure. Okay. I'm agreeable to that.
And there's nothing, I just think that
no
questions should be asked.
It's the same. That's fine, and right. We'll make that arrangement possible. And yes, and it's going to be at the same pricing as the other two signs that are on 281
or more.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
So do we need to make a motion?
Do we need to pass a motion to do that?
I would
All right.
To enable. They need to know that y'all are.
Would someone move
ready
to make
negotiate?
That?
I would move to have the mayor and one council member negotiate an agreement with Clear Channel Outdoor on that bulletin.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Number 3. Take possible action to execute a contract between the town of Hollywood Park and the Northeast Independent School District for the Voight Center pool use. This is supposed to finally solidify the extended use in the off-season of our pool for the school district. And I believe all parties have gone through this a couple times. Are there any questions, citizens' comments, or from the members of council?
What do you think?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, the total that they would pass would be the 31.8. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes,
and then when we buy the cover and all the mechanisms that go with it, would be the 15,220.
Yes, ma'am. That's the estimates I got, and let me go over that real quick. Councilman Howell asked me to check with Leslie on pool covers that they use or that they provide. I went to 5 different Leslie. They do not make a pool cover that will work for our pool. We would actually have to buy little pieces and basically have a jigsaw puzzle floating on the water, is what they told me. So,
This cover, is it one cover?
It's 3 pieces.
Okay.
That go the length of the pool.
Right. Okay. So after we buy the pool cover, what other expenses are we going to incur, like for any type of supplies or storage or reel or what? I mean, what?
There's a real cost in the estimate for the pool cover.
And that's along with the okay.
That's part of the cost.
Okay. And where will this reel be?
Well, during the wintertime, it'll be stored down there because we'll have pool covers on it. This is where I came back 2 sessions ago and was asking for the storage building to store it in.
Mm-hmm.
That price that I had at that time has come and gone, so I have to
So we don't know exactly yet how much we're going to incur in expenses.
On the storage, no.
Okay.
Or the heat, or the gas.
Or the chemicals.
Or the electric.
Or the gas or the electric.
And the additional.
And there is an additional cost on
for the maintenance.
Maintenance, and I didn't have it in here. I had it in my during the budget session.
Mm-hmm.
I had it in that.
Was it $12,000?
I think it was going to be an additional $12,000.
So now we're
now we're in the hole.
No, that $12,000 was for every month that was off season. Okay, so off season is October, November, December, January, February, March, April. Those are off season months. They're not going to be using the pool all those months.
Well, yeah, they
Actually, I stand corrected. Yes, they are, except for April.
So now we're at break even.
Yes, sir.
If even that, I don't think I'm in favor of this.
I mean, I'll have to be honest. At first, it sounded like a really great idea, but if it's break even, that means we're losing money.
Sure.
A lot of money.
I was a big promoter of this, and I was crunching the numbers, and I am agreeing 100% that we are going to lose money on this deal because we have no idea what the cost is on the gas and the electric to keep that pool warm. I would rather spend the money to have the residents of Hollywood Park use that pool in the morning when they want to do their laps before they go to work. Whether somebody at 8 o'clock on a Friday night with their wife and their husband and their family, if they want to be there after the lifeguards are done, we have insurance now that we're able to use that pool without a lifeguard. And we just need to come up with some plans to work out a fob system, okay, or a higher rate to use it. But I think we're wasting our energy and our resources by doing this when we should be thinking about the citizens of Hollywood Park.
I agree, 100%. If it's not profitable, then it's not going to work, in my opinion.
I agree with you 100%.
Is it a simple matter to recalculate the lane rate to bring this even to a break-even level where it would cover the cost of the cover and chemicals and heat, making it less expensive for residents?
I think you would almost have to double. I mean, just to cover yourself, you would have to double the lane rate. And I can tell you right now that Northeast is not going to go for that.
We don't even.
We don't want to break even.
No, we don't.
We're going to do it. We want to be making money off of it, and that's not going to happen.
And we don't even know what the BTUs are going to be kicking out on this thing.
Okay.
I mean, one heater breaks, then, that just pretty much.
Yeah.
Oof. Well, any other discussion? Would someone like to move?
How long has it been on there?
A year May.
Excuse me now?
We've had the pool running up and running for about a year now in May.
A little over a year.
And do we have any numbers on what it's costing as it is? Chemicals, gas, utilities, anything?
Well, all the chemicals and all that stuff is included in the maintenance. It's all we need. All we would have, and I don't know if you could tell that, but
it's really you can't break it down as the pool and the void center because they're all in the same utilities, all in the same water.
But you're going to have more chemicals with more people using that pool.
That is correct.
Yeah, but we're not incurring that cost. That's included in the maintenance contract with.
The maintenance contract is a flat X number of dollars per year.
Okay. Yeah. They don't charge us extra for chemicals.
No.
Right.
But if we were to go with something like this, then the number of visits would increase during the
right.
non-season.
Yeah, that's totally.
And then that would increase.
I think he was asking from up to now,
I thought Kevin Gallivan had mentioned having an interest in several teams and several other schools being a part of this before this is completely decided to be a dead issue? Is it something that is worth any further discussion to see if there's enough commercial or school use to
show me the money?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do we do with this?
If there's more than 31.8 to show us, show me the money, because this is not going to cut the extra time down there with his people.
Yeah, it's going to cost. I mean, my guys.
It's not. I mean, it's not even break even at this point. It's just, and that's just a bad idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'd like to be helpful to Northeast and be a good neighbor and all that, but
Well,
not at the cost of losing money for the city.
No.
Well, do we not bring it to a vote, or do we just decide to table it?
I don't know, Michael. Just don't
Doesn't
make a
seem to be
motion.
support.
No action. If somebody wants to make a negative motion or whatever they do, they don't have to do anything, just no action.
All right.
I think we just do no action. I mean, if they want to come back and say, "Hey, we're going to pay you $20 an hour a lane," then maybe
Someone
we
like
can
a
talk
second? No action.
about it. Yeah.
All in favor?
Second.
Aye. All right. No action.
Okay.
All right. Number 4 is we're going to talk about the using seizure asset forfeiture funds to purchase
Body cams.
for the police department federal asset seizure program.
All right, I get to talk twice. It's a good night for me then.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, so I know we've discussed this in our budget meetings. For those citizens interested, I'll just hit the highlights here. We are part of a DEA task force, and what that means is we do have an individual assigned to DEA. They are a badge credentialed individual for that agency, and then we share in the proceeds. Anything they seize monetarily, or equipment that's sold, we get a percentage of those proceeds, and we can use those for equipment, training, basically anything but salaries for the police department. So it's a very good program that we're involved in, and it does things like what we're requesting tonight. So we about 3 years ago, the EDC funded our first body cam project. This is one of the body cameras, and these were basically a test for us to see if we wanted to continue to use body cameras, if they were feasible, and it's turned out we really, really like them. They're great for transparency. They're great for court and all sorts of other benefits. So these cameras were not the top-of-the-line kind of piece of equipment. It's a third-party vendor camera stamped with Coband. They did not last long. The internal battery does not last long. You can't change it out yourself. You got to send it to them, and it almost costs as much for the camera as it does to replace the battery. So we're gonna move on from the brand into something a little better. And plus, we only bought 6 of these to begin with, and we have 13 patrolmen, so we need to bring that level of equipment up as well. So what we're asking for is that we're going to use asset seizure money to fund that project. That project includes the hardware, the server, a dedicated server, which is extremely important with video processing and storage because it takes up a lot of storage. You're talking about HD quality video times 13 people. There's a lot of storage needs. These things will download via Wi-Fi or when you cradle them in the cradles in the back. So it takes up a lot of resources. So we're going to get a dedicated server for that and all the software and everything associated with that program, so that total cost for the cameras and software and servers $12,395. Those are not tax dollars. Those are seized funds from your local drug lords. So we're going to use their money to buy us new body cameras. That's Reader's Digest version.
I love it.
Thank you, Chief. I think it's great.
Thank you, sir.
Would someone like to move that we make a motion to?
I move that we approve the use of asset seizure funds to purchase body cameras in the amount of $12,395.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the motion passes. All right, final item for tonight is number 5, and that is to discuss action to approve a replat of the Galleria Oaks Starbucks lot. They're expanding it slightly outward to expand their patio, and to do that with sewage, water, gas, electric, and phone easements, Side by 14 foot in one direction, 10 in another, and 16 feet in another. Because of parking issues, this has to be illegal.
There are representatives here, Mayor, from
Yes.
Starbucks,
Great.
and the owner of Galleria Oaks is also the owner of the Starbucks. The letter that I'm passing to you right now is we just had one stipulation from the building inspector about spacing at the Galleria Oaks, and so they're fine with that. It is actually is a replat. They've already been platted once when they came here, when the initial original EDC came and brought them into Starbucks.
This
So
is
it's
clarifying
just
the parking?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct. So we just wanted to have something on file, and we do have a representative here.
Oh, thank you. Would any of you like to speak, to offer any clarification? Thank you. Appreciate your patience.
Hi, my name is Ashley Fairmont. I'm an attorney here with Kaufman and Killen. I represent the property owner, BW Galleria LLC. He owns the shopping center as well as the Starbucks, and he's just looking. If you look at the shopping center, Galleria Oaks, there's two buildings now, and they're platted separately. And now that there's the Starbucks, they'd like to plat that out separately as well, so that each of the buildings is on their own separate lots. So I don't really have any information beyond that, too many details. That's all. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And this is to help accommodate a patio. Is that? No. Okay.
They just wanted to replat that separately.
We just like to replat. I haven't been informed of any proposed improvements to Starbucks.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Other comments or questions from the council?
I make a motion that we take action to approve the plat of Galleria Oaks Starbucks.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. All right, that concludes our meeting tonight.